Your vote counts. And for that reason, you'll want to listen to what the spectrum of leading politicians have to say about issues that matter to you. Join me on this new programme presented by KTV, Politics Matters. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. This is a Politics Matters special programme. For the next few weeks, we're going to be presenting a programme to talk about the general election 2017 that's taking place on the 8th of June. It's come as a surprise that we were waiting for the general election in 2020, but now in a few weeks' time, literally 7 weeks' time, we are going to have a general election where we are hoping as a community to make a number of changes. Firstly, the questions we want to ask is, will we see any Sikh MPs elected on the 8th of June? This is an opportunity for the main political parties and an opportunity for the community itself. This week, we have seen both the main political parties adopt a process to get candidates into key seats where members of parliament, existing members of parliament, have decided not to run. And in the next 25 minutes, I'm going to be going through and explaining how we can make a difference as a community, and the Politics Matters programme that comes to you every week will, until the general election, focus on the general election. We will follow the fortunes of some of those leading Sikh candidates in the next 7 weeks. And we'll also be bringing to you how those candidates up and down the country are responding to the issues that matter to the Sikh community in this country. So, if I could explain, what are some of those issues? Firstly, it's about better representation of Sikhs in Parliament. How do you get better representation of Sikhs? Firstly, it's by actually having Sikhs elected on the 8th of June to the House of Commons itself. We currently have no Sikh MPs. We're hoping that this opportunity that Theresa May and Parliament has given us will allow some Sikh candidates to come through both the main political parties, both Labour and the Conservatives. And I'll be talking about some of those parts of the country where this may be possible. But also, representation is not just about Sikhs in Parliament. It's also about the people that you elect on the 8th of June need to represent you, and represent you well. The feedback in the UK Sikh survey was that 3/4 of you were not happy with your members of Parliament and the way they were representing you in the first 12 months following the general election. Here is an opportunity to ask each and every candidate that comes and knocks on your door, every candidate that comes to a Gurdwara, every candidate that you may see in any Nagar Kirtans later this month, ask them some key questions. In 2015, before the last general election, we published the Sikh Manifesto. This manifesto is still relevant today. There were 10 issues in that manifesto. The first of those issues was around better representation of the Sikh community, which I've touched upon. But we think, rather than spell out the same issues again, some of those issues are being progressed, such as the separate ethnic monitoring of Sikhs. We've been talking about the test that the Office for National Statistics has been carrying out in Hounslow and Wolverhampton. We've been talking to you about developing the code of practice on the 5Ks and the turban. That's being drafted as we speak. Clearly, an election brings a complication because no one knows what the outcome will be, and it disrupts the whole parliamentary process. Whether we talk about having a site in central London for a monument to mark the sacrifices that Sikhs made in the First World War, or whether it be the issue of more Sikh ethos schools. These are areas where progress is being made. In a sense, we don't want to be raising those issues between now and the 8th of June with sitting MPs and prospective candidates, but we want to raise topical issues of the day. What are those topical issues? Let me talk about 2 or 3 of them. We have seen in the last 2 weeks a huge amount of publicity around 2 words: Sikh genocide. It started off in the Ontario Parliament, where politicians passed a motion in the Ontario Parliament recognising the events of November 1984 as a genocide. And what we've seen is, with Harjit Singh Sajjan's visit to India and the response from Captain Amrinder Singh to not meet him, we have seen leading politicians in India talk about that motion and talk about those words, Sikh genocide. And what that's brought out is, in 2014, on the 26th of December 2014, the current Indian Home Minister, who was the Home Minister at that time, said that the events of November 1984 were a genocide. That is quoted in the Sikh manifesto under Section 9, which deals with the Sikh genocide. Later on, we have seen in April 2015, in the Delhi Assembly, journalist Jarnail Singh put down a motion in the Delhi Assembly that raised the issue of the Sikh genocide, and that motion was carried. So in other words, it's okay for the Indian Home Minister to talk about Sikh genocide. It's okay for the Delhi Assembly to talk about Sikh genocide and recognise those events as a genocide. But as soon as politicians abroad, in this case in Ontario, there has also been a resolution in California recognising it as a genocide, that Indian politicians get very nervous because the words genocide carry a particular connotation. So firstly, wouldn't this be a fantastic opportunity for Sikhs that are watching Politics Matters Today to use this period between now and the 8th of June to raise with every single candidate, whether they be from the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, UKIP, the Greens, any party, ask them at one simple question. Use Section 9 of the Sikh Manifesto and say, look, there is a tremendous debate in the Sikh community and worldwide about the events of 1984 being a genocide. Not just the events of November 1984, which is the narrow focus of the motion in the Ontario Parliament, but June 1984, Operation Woodrose and what followed in Punjab, because individually and collectively they were a genocide according to the United Nations definition. So this is a fantastic opportunity for you as individual Sikhs and for people that are involved with Gurdwaras, in the management of Gurdwaras, attending Gurdwaras, for those involved in Sikh organisations to make this a key issue for the Sikhs, to raise the Sikh genocide debate within every single constituency throughout the United Kingdom. Let me now give you another example. We're coming up to the 100th anniversary of Jallianwala Bagh in 1919. And because we've seen Justin Trudeau apologise last May for the events in 1914 with a Komagatu Maru ship that was returned. He made an official apology on the 18th of May 2016 in Parliament. It was a full apology. And the debate has started. Last year at Vaisakhi, I spoke in the Speaker's residence with ministers present and said, wasn't this the right opportunity for the British Prime Minister to show the same respect to the worldwide Sikh community and apologise for the massacre that took place on the 13th of April 1919 in Amritsar in Jallianwala Bagh. And this is an ideal opportunity to raise this with candidates. It's not a party political issue. It's not about the current Prime Minister. It's saying whoever is the British Prime Minister that's elected on the 8th of June should, before the 13th of April 2019, the 100th anniversary, apologise to the worldwide Sikh community. Justin Trudeau has set a precedent. And this is a good thing to debate with prospective candidates. Think about it. How many of those candidates will regard it as something that the British shouldn't apologise for? Shooting unarmed men, women and children. Because they'd simply gathered on the day of Vaisakhi, and gathered within months of the end of the First World War, where Sikhs had made a huge number of sacrifices for the freedom that we enjoy in Europe now. And then, let me mention another issue. 70 years ago, this year, in 1947, we saw the Sikh homeland of Punjab divided in two. We saw the creation of India and Pakistan. And every one of you sitting at home, some of you, the older generation, may have lived through that period, and they know the heartache, the loss of family life, the emotions that were involved with people having to leave their homes, either in what is now Pakistan or what is now India, and cross the border. This was not just a matter that impacted on the Sikhs. This impacted on the Hindu community. This impacted on the Muslim community. And the British were ultimately in charge at the time. So isn't this another issue in the year that India and Pakistan will be marking their independence, that actually we in this country should be saying to politicians of today, what about the events of 1947? What about the huge loss of life? What about the largest ever migration of people? Surely the British should take responsibility for what I would term were their failings. And specifically for the Sikhs, because Punjab was and still is our homeland, we were affected as a minority community more so than the Hindu majority of India and the Muslim majority of Pakistan. And I think this general election on the 8th of June gives us an opportunity to talk about what happened 70 years ago and get it into the minds of politicians that will be elected that this is something that the British should acknowledge where they failed the people of India and the people of Pakistan. But more importantly, they failed the Sikhs, because the Sikhs were an equal party to the Hindu majority led by the Congress and the Muslim majority led by the Muslim League. And it's only at such times when we have such opportunities can we raise these issues. So those are just some of the examples about how you can use the Sikh Manifesto and use current issues to bring up what people are talking about today. People are talking about the Sikh genocide. They're talking about 1984. They're talking about the Jallianwala Bagh. It was raised this week again. Manjinder Gaur spoke on behalf of the Sikh Federation in Parliament and again said, Justin Trudeau has set an example, the clock is ticking on the British government. Sikhs make a huge contribution to this country. We also deserve an apology. So we're using the Politics Matters show this week to say, one, what are we doing? Firstly, what we're saying is you must register to vote. That is the first thing you must do. If you are going to be over the age of 18 on the 8th of June 2017, you can go online and register to vote. That is the first thing you must do. Secondly, you must go out and vote on the 8th of June. A very large proportion, probably the highest proportion of any community, is the Sikh community when it comes to getting out and voting. At the last general election, the UK Sikh survey estimated it was around 82% of all Sikhs voted. Why can't we make that 85%, 90%? Because if you go out and vote, then politicians will know that your vote counts more than some other communities which have a much lower turnout. The average across the country was 66% at the last general election. The average for the ethnic minority community was 56%. So Sikhs being at 82% was a huge margin higher than the average for the country and the average for ethnic minorities. So your vote counts, so register to vote and make sure you vote on the 8th of June. Secondly, what can you do between now and the 8th of June? Use the Sikh Manifesto. Use the issues of 1919 and an apology by the British Prime Minister. The issue of 1947 and Britain acknowledging its role and its failings, because they were planning to leave in 1948, but in their rush, it proved to be a disaster. And use the events of 1984 about the issue of the Sikh genocide. And in addition, use the demand for an inquiry relating to the events of 1984 and the role of the British. These are live issues, and these will get played out in the next 7 weeks. But now let me return to the very first issue, which is about getting Sikh MPs elected on the 8th of June. This is an opportunity. It's an opportunity because the processes that are being adopted to select candidates, where MPs have decided not to stand, is that they're not following the traditional method of selection. Let me just run through the two selection processes. For the Labour Party, it's traditionally the case that the local membership decide which candidate they want. This year, for this election, the National Executive Council of the Labour Party has decided that the decision will be made by the National Executive Council itself and the regional party. So applications opened last Friday. Applications closed at Sunday lunchtime. And as we sit here today watching KDV, that process of longlisting and shortlisting has happened. And we and others have directly influenced Sikhs who will be shortlisted and hopefully selected and known in the next few days about who will be standing. And our key theme has been, we need Sikhs to be selected from the Labour Party in winnable seats. It's no point in Sikhs standing in seats that they're going to lose. That's the Labour Party. Let me now talk about the Conservative Party. The opinion polls suggest that the Conservative Party are 20-odd% ahead of the Labour Party. There is an expectation, if nothing changed in the next 7 weeks, that a large number of Labour MPs will lose their seats and the Conservatives will come to power. I won't talk about the Liberal Democrats today, but again, it's a bit of an unknown that if their vote increases, the UKIP vote diminishes, how successful they will be in parts of the country, such as the southwest. So what the Conservative Party have done, because it is the largest party at the time, and it's likely to be the largest party on the 8th of June, is their selection process is again different for this general election. And that is why it's an opportunity for the likes of the Sikh community and Sikhs who are active in politics to make a difference and hopefully get Sikh MPs in winnable seats for the Conservative Party as well. The Conservative Party is also making a decision at the national level. They have an approved list of candidates. We know directly some of those Sikhs who would make very good members of Parliament who will and are being considered to be candidates for the general election on the 8th of June. What the Conservative Party do is they will centrally take 3 people from that list and they will then let the local membership decide between those 3 candidates. So whilst the likes of the Sikh Federation, the likes of the Sikh Network and others can influence both the leadership of the Labour Party, the National Executive Council, and also the Conservative Party, and say to them, we have no Sikh MPs. Parliament must represent the Sikh community. We deserve at least 5 or 6 MPs according to our population. And therefore, here is an opportunity for you, centrally, not locally, to put forward Sikh names in winnable seats. So again, the message to the Conservative Party is that there will be many winnable seats for the Conservatives, and we would like to see Sikh candidates on your approved list put forward in those short lists of 3 for the local membership to decide. So that gives you a sense of what we've been doing in the very short period of time since the election has been announced. And finally, I'm going to talk to you about making the Sikh vote really count on the 8th of June. And what we mean by that is we need to be a lot better. We did a fantastic job as a community with the Sikh Manifesto in 2015 in getting those issues in the minds of virtually every single candidate. Gurdwaras, individuals, organisations proactively used the Sikh Manifesto, set up meetings with current MPs, prospective candidates, and talked through those issues and got them to pledge to move forward on those issues. Now we're narrowing down the focus on 1919, on 1984, on what happened in 1947, on issues that are very current. And what we can do is we can say, look, currently, as we stand here today, the opinion polls mean that a number of Labour politicians who are currently MPs need the Sikh vote. They need the Sikh vote to retain their majorities. And what I'm going to run through in the next few minutes are some of the constituencies where we have put out information. So let me just run through some of these, and these are appearing on your right hand side. We've identified in the top 75 seats that the Conservatives are targeting, we've identified 12 constituencies where the Sikh vote will matter to the current sitting MP. If I run through those, they range from Ealing Central and Acton, where Rupa Huq has a majority of 274. And at the other extreme, in Slough, Fiona McTaggart has a majority of 7,336. There are 9,000 Sikh voters in Slough. Now, you'll notice a couple of blank faces there. In Wolverhampton South West, since the election was announced, Rob Maris, who was elected last time, has announced he is no longer sitting. In Birmingham Edgbaston, Gisela Stewart has announced she's not defending a majority of 2,706. And in fact, in the last few days, Fiona McTaggart from Slough has also decided she will not fight that particular seat this time round on the 8th of June. Now look at these places. Slough, the highest proportion of Sikhs of any particular town or city in the last census. Second, Wolverhampton. So these are towns where the MPs have decided they're not going to sit. The Labour Party are going to have to identify candidates, and these are the sorts of towns where seat candidates have applied, and we are exerting pressure on the National Executive to say we need seats. We need seats in those winnable seats. These are winnable seats with the seat vote. And I won't run through the others. This information is widely available, but Brentford and Isleworth, Ruth Cadbury, 465 votes she won by last time. She bucked the national trend. She knows she relied on the seat vote. She supported all 10 items in the seat manifesto. So here are just a dozen or so constituencies where, if you believe the current opinion polls, these are areas where those candidates, or the candidates that are selected in Wolverhampton, South West, or Birmingham, Edgbaston, or Slough, will need the Sikh vote, irrespective of who they select, whether they select a Sikh or a non-Sikh. And then let's look at the other side of the picture. At the last general election, the Conservatives secured 36.9% of the popular vote, and the Labour Party secured just over 30%. It was roughly a 6.5% difference. And therefore, between now and the 8th of June, opinion polls can change. Whether we will have TV debates or not have TV debates, whether taxes will be increased or not increased, whether there'll be talk about broken promises, whether there'll be talk about the sort of leadership that different political parties give, things can change in any election. We saw that with the Brexit vote. We've seen it in terms of America and the election of Donald Trump. Now, if those opinion polls start to suggest a narrowing of the gap between Labour and Conservatives, then these 6 MPs that I've put up, Derby South, Amanda Soloway, won by 41 votes. Bedford, Richard Fuller, won by 1,097 votes. They will need the Sikh votes in places like Derby and in Bedford. Places like Telford, Louisiana will need those votes. So this isn't just about seats that the Labour Party may lose. This is also about, if those opinion polls start changing in the next 7 weeks, then there are also Conservative candidates who are currently sitting MPs that will need the Sikh vote. So these are 18 constituencies that we've identified very quickly, because the general election's been called very quickly, where we must make the Sikh vote count. So finally, just summing up. Firstly, we are going all out to try and make sure that we have Sikh MPs on the 8th of June. And within the next week, we will have a good idea of the Sikh candidates we've managed to get in different places. Then those individuals, using their party machinery and the support of the Sikh community, should go all out to try and be elected on the 8th of June. Secondly, we must push our issues. The issues set out in the Sikh manifesto, the issues that I've gone through today. And finally, will be trying to make the Sikh vote count in those constituencies where it matters as opinion polls change. The key thing is politicians need the Sikh vote. And through Politics Matters, we will not be bringing our weekly programme with a half-hour interview with a different politician. That was all about preparing for the 2020 general election. This has now come upon us. So we'll be doing Politics Matters special programmes on the general election 2017. Keep watching KTV, and we will bring the latest issues and the latest news about Sikh candidates that will hopefully be elected on the 8th of June. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru